I feel the Spirit moving in me. I feel the Spirit moving in me.
Kindergarten Sunday school teacher was working really hard to get her Sunday school class to focus on the Christmas story as opposed to the story of Santa Claus. And she read the Christmas story over and over to them. She even taught them how to sing Silent Night. Finally, she asked them to take out their crayons and to draw a picture of what Christmas meant to them. And she walked around the classroom and looked at all the children's drawings. And when she got to little Johnny, she looked down, and you know about little Johnny. She looked down at little Johnny, and she saw that with some anxiety in her, she saw that Johnny had drawn a little large man next to the manger. And she said, "Johnny, that isn't Santa, is it?" And little Johnny says, "Well, of course not. That's Round John Virgin." You have to think of the words in Silent Night, yeah? Well, Jesus taught, I think his number one lesson was to love. Was to love God, the presence of God, to love ourselves, and to love each other. Pretty simple teaching, yes? Pretty simple to do that. And yet I think it can be the most challenging. It's such a simple idea, but it can be the most challenging thing that we do. Jesus, really, his two basic principles, we'll talk about this one first and the other one later. It's also a difficult principle also for many of us. So today we're talking about the gift of love and how we, especially in this Christmas season, get to practice giving and receiving the gift of love. And so we're going to talk about some really simple ideas that we can apply to our lives to experience the gift of love in this Christmas season and to share it with others. It's interesting, I think, that Jesus demonstrated this principle in so much of his life, to be able to demonstrate love in the midst of the challenges that he faced, and loved until the very end. One of my favorite Christmas stories is about Mrs. Thompson's first grade class. And Timmy Stoddard was in this class, and you can imagine, it was the last day of school before the Christmas break. You remember that? Does anybody remember that from our school days? The excitement of that day and being present. And on this day, all of Miss Stoddard's first grade students brought her a gift. And she walked out of the room for a minute, and when she came back in, her desk was piled high with gifts from all the students in her class. And so she sat down at her desk, and she started to go through the gifts and open the gifts. And I know some of us in this room are teachers, and you know what you get. You get cups that say, coffee cups, right, that say Merry Christmas on them. You get pins. You get Christmas decorations that often say the year, to my favorite teacher in 2017. And so she's opening these gifts, and it's fabulous energy in the room. And then when she gets through the gifts, there's one left, and it's in a kind of a dirty paper sack. And she looks at the sack, and she thinks, I know this is from Timmy. And she thinks, as she picks it up, she wonders, what is in this sack? And so she opens the sack, and she reaches inside, and she pulls out a rhinestone bracelet. And some of the rhinestones are missing. And she puts it on her wrist, and then she looks back in the bag, and she sees that there's a bottle of perfume. That's kind of inexpensive perfume, and it's half gone. And so she takes a perfume and she dabs a little bit on her wrist. And later that day, Timmy says to her, "Miss Thompson, you smell like my mother." And that bracelet looks beautiful on you. Elizabeth Ballard wrote this story in 1974, and it was printed in Home Life magazine. Charles Fillmore, Unity's co-founder, said that gravity is mortal man's name for love. By the invisible arms of love, we are held tight to Earth's prolific bosom. Saying that this energy of love that's everywhere in the universe is like the power of gravity that holds us together and keeps us as one, keeps us on this planet. And in the same way, the power of love is available for us and works in our lives. Love is the greatest transforming power in the universe. And we can call upon it, especially in challenging times, and be transformed by its power. Jesus said, "The Father and I are one." I like that. The Father and I are one. And the Greek translation of the words "are one" actually means unity. Unity, like we are united in oneness. And I know and I believe that we are united in this same oneness, that there is no separation, that we are perfect expressions of the power of love, that we are the gift of love to this planet, to the world. And of course, we do get to choose how much we're going to experience and express love. I've noticed that it can be easy sometimes to fall into the belief that I'm separated from this power. And I think it's interesting that many religions teach that we're separate from this power. And the truth of it is, there's a long story, I believe, about that, about trying to hold on to the power by the state and by religions. And I've got to believe at the essence of all that, we know that we're all one and the presence of God is within us, and that we have the power that we sometimes, when we're focused on separation, give it to something else or someone else. Though we may sometimes feel separate, we can never be separate from the presence of God. The presence of God never says, you know what, I think I'm going to pull myself away from this person. Doesn't do that. Presence of God doesn't have a consciousness to make a choice like that. However, we do, if we choose to experience separation, we can say, I'm going to pull my love away. I'm not going to experience my love. Or we can say, you know what, I'm going to be the most loving person that I can be today. I'm going to experience love wherever I am. I am going to be the gift of love. Charles Fillmore said that if God could separate itself from any part of the universe, even for an instant, that part would cease to exist. God is the substance of the universe. And God isn't a person that makes a choice to pull itself away. The substance of the universe, the presence of God, is everywhere in the universe. You know, sometimes we can feel separate. And it's those times when we feel like we're separate that we separate ourselves from others. And those can be times when, instead of buying into that separation, where we can say, you know what? I want to be one with the universe. I am one with the universe, yes? I am one with the universe. Say that with me. I am one with the universe. The presence of God is right here, and I am one with that presence. Let's say that. The presence of God is right here, and I am one with that presence. And that is the truth. The second thing that Jesus taught us, he taught us about love and he taught us about forgiveness, which are, interestingly enough, two sides of the same coin. We cannot totally love unless we can forgive. And we cannot totally forgive unless we can love. Jesus said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." I don't believe that anybody really sets out to do something out of meanness. In the moment when they might demonstrate that kind of behavior, they're just not connected to the source of who they are. They're just not experiencing it. They're not aligned with it. In a sense, they're unconscious. When we are totally conscious, we act out of love. We can't be conscious and not act out of love. Forgive them, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Another part of this same truth is that the person is not the enemy. When we believe somebody has done us wrong, the person's not the enemy. Ignorance is the enemy. Perhaps it's their ignorance because, and we're not looking at ignorance like it's a bad word. It's just saying that they're not connected to the truth of who they are. They're ignorant of their presence, of their God potential that wants to experience itself as them. And this is a fun statement too, because there's also another side of the coin. The person is not the enemy. Ignorance is the enemy. And I too can be in that ignorance when I believe that they can do me wrong or that they can hurt me. Then I am not operating from the principle of truth. And when we get into that place, we can follow all kinds of delusions, yes? And get into all kinds of limited thinking and doubt and fear to realize the other person is not the enemy. They're simply here to provide feedback, to remind us that we get the opportunity to be present and to be conscious and to act out of love. And if we see them not acting out of love, then it could be that they're unconscious. And if we see them not acting out of love, it could be that we too are unconscious. So when we criticize, when we condemn, and when we talk negatively about our world, what does our world do? It reflects it back at us, doesn't it? If we say, boy, what a terrible day this is, boy, this is horrible, then guess what shows up? Exactly what we are affirming. The world says, oh, you'd like to operate that way today? All right then. Then here are some circumstances that reflect to you that exact thought and the belief that you're holding. And the opposite's true. When we go out and we're totally focused in the presence of love and life affirming truth, that's what shows up for us. And if it doesn't, then we pay it no mind. No one has the power to influence our behavior except us. We get to choose how we respond to the events in our lives. Don't you love that part? That's one of the things that I love the most about these teachings is it's about self-responsibility. It's about totally being present and realize that we have the power, you have the power in every moment to decide how you are going to live your life. Imagine how life would be if we felt connected to the good. Imagine what that would be like if all of us were connected to our good, to life, to each other. And the world will respond differently when we have that awareness and we act out of that consciousness. True for you. Do you know it's true? I think if you're sitting here, you know that this is true. And that's what I love about unity and about New Thought. It's about shifting our thoughts and beliefs so that we can be one with the presence and power of love that's within us, and we can demonstrate that in the world and see that in our lives. Imagine what might have been if Miss Thompson had responded to Timmy differently and responded to the ugly brown bag in a different way. I really believe that that moment in this story was a life-shifting moment. It was a divine moment in both of their lives. His gift to her was greater than an imperfect bracelet or a half-filled bottle of inexpensive perfume. He gave her the opportunity to love and respond out of oneness and unity and love instead of out of fear and doubt and separation. Her gift to him went beyond acceptance and graciousness. It was life-transforming. Each gift blessed the giver for the rest of their lives. I realized I didn't tell you part of the story. After the exchanging of the gifts, Timmy graduated from first grade, and Mrs. Thompson didn't hear from him for years until she got a letter that said, "Dear Miss Thompson, I want you to know I'm graduating second in my class. Love, Timmy." And then again there was a period of time, and she received another note that said, "Dear Miss Thompson, I'm graduating first in my class, and I want you to know. Love, Timmy." Some more time passed. She wrote another note that said, "Dear Miss Thompson, I'm graduating Timmy Stoddard, MD. I want you to be the first to know. And my dad died last year, and I would like you to come to my graduation because I feel like you're the only family that I have." That one moment, that one time, I think was reflective of her consciousness and his consciousness. A message that lived on in their lives. The gift of love. Will you share the gift of love? Today is Rumi's birthday, and I have a quote from him which says, "Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all of the barriers within yourself that you have built against it." Wow. Isn't that really what we're on this planet to do? I really believe. Is to break through what it is that's holding us back from experiencing the presence and the power of love. John said in the book of John, God is love. And that's the truth. God is love that is everywhere in the universe. And the most powerful thing that we can do in our lives is to embrace it, embody it, and to become one with it. To release anything that keeps us from experiencing love. And we can find a million things, can't we? When we find ourselves shutting down around love or closing somebody out or minimizing them or minimizing the way we think about them or talking about them, we're sharing something that's coming from this place of separation and not truth and not love and not peace and not joy. The gift of love. Will you share the gift of love this Christmas? A simple idea. Will you share it? Will you be the gift of love at Christmas? Will you practice the principle? You only have to do it for a week. But it really should be a principle and a practice that we do and use all the time. God is love. And we can let God flow through us to bless the world and to draw our good to us. Nothing has ever changed this world until someone looked beyond appearances. Until someone looked within and saw a dream. Until someone looked within and saw the truth. Until someone looked within and found inspiration. And then demonstrated the courage to bring it out into the light of day. We can't look outside of ourselves to find love. We can try, but really the only place where love exists is in here. And I think it's interesting and fun to know that as soon as we really love ourselves, then we can begin to love others. When we begin to love that God presence that is the truth within us, then we can love ourselves. And then we can truly love others. We can't look outside for love. To find love, we need to use insight. We need to look within. See it within ourselves. Look at how can we be more loving and to practice it. So will you look deep enough within to find the presence of God that is the natural gift of God to you? Will you look and find it? Will you step beyond the boundaries, the difficulties, the challenges, the appearances of others and yourself to discover the gift of love? Can you look beyond the true enemy? And it's not really an enemy. Really, ignorance is a friend. Right? If we can become aware of how we are ignorant, how we don't know, what do we not know, and embrace that as a friend who has come here to show us the truth of what we can be. Can we look beyond the mask? The gift of love is irresistible because it is God. When we are loving, we become spiritual magnets that attract the good of the universe to us, that attract people of like mind who are loving to us. When we are giving the gift of love, we encourage and help others to experience the presence of love that is within them. And in doing so, we can be true gifts of love. The love of my Christ self is born in me right now. So before you say that, I just invite you to pause for a second and maybe think of a particular way that this Christ self can be born in you. Maybe you know there's some place, there's some thought where love can be a deeper expression for you in your life. The love of your Christ self is born in you right now. The love of my Christ self is born in me right now. I invite you to put your hand on your heart and say that. Let's say this together. And just, let's just kind of whisper it as if we're whispering it to our Christ self and reminding ourselves of the truth of who we are. Together. The love of my Christ self is born in me right now. Someone said, the grace and the good are many, but he who loves with such a love that through his love some other has scaled the heights and there seen what eternal life holds in store for man, has made the noblest gift of them all. Then give me such a love in endless measure. When is a wrinkled brown paper bag not a wrinkled brown paper bag? That's for you to decide. I invite you to close your eyes. And take a deep breath and breathe into this moment. And I invite you, as we join together in meditation, to focus on your heart. Breathing in and breathing out. And breathe into the gift of love that you are, into that Christ potential, into that God essence that is the essence of you. And perhaps you can imagine this place of love at the center of your beingness expanding. Imagine that it moves through every thought and transforms every thought into thoughts of love. Breathing in and breathing out. And see that around you there is a light of love, an expansiveness of truth. Perhaps a shield of love. A shield that touches everyone around you. Every person that you come in contact with, every person that you see, every word that you speak moves out through this light and into the world. And then imagine that you see with the eyes of love. And that all that you cast your eyes upon glows and glistens with love. And let's hold this idea, this vision, for a few moments in the silence. Breathing in and breathing out. Remembering the gift of love that you are. And so let us take this gift and share it with the world. And to be the gift of love in everything we think, say, and do. And gently bring your awareness back to this moment. And when you're ready to open your eyes. And behold Christmas.
Where I live, there are rain.